Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. And if you are not, welcome back. My name is Megan, your emotionally intelligent bestie. And here we talk about everything manifesting emotional intelligence and spirituality. So today's video, we are going to talk about the avoidant slash anxious relationship situationship. Now, for those of you who don't know, my entire healing journey started when I found out my own attachment style. I found myself bottoming out on a cycle of picking just avoidant partners. And so when I discovered the attachment styles, it completely changed the way I looked at relationships completely. And I also feel like it kind of freed me in a sense. So now I am dedicated to making sure that everyone knows about attachment styles. And I wanted to make this specific video because if you have found yourself in a relationship with an avoidant individual, then you're going to see that your relationship isn't as unique as you think it is actually pretty textbook. A lot of the same things happen in the relationship cycle between the anxious and the avoidant attachers. So before I even walk you through the stages of the relationship situationship, you first have to understand how anxious attachment develops and how avoidant attachment develops. So starting out first with anxious attachers, they're used to emotionally inconsistent households mostly. So you're dealing with the parents where they never know what temperament they're going to get. Maybe they have an absent parent. Potentially there could be a parent where they feel rejected, or ignored by their parent. At the very core, an anxious attacher believes that they have to work for love. So, in believing that they have to work for love, those are the type of partners they continue to choose, the ones that they have to work for. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the avoidant attachers. And avoidant attachers have spent most of their childhood having to deal with their emotions themselves. Either they might have had a completely absent parent, maybe a parent that was dealing with some type of mental illness, or a parent that just flat out didn't want to deal with their emotions. Whatever the case is, avoidant individuals are typically, they're used to dealing with their emotions on their own. And so going into adulthood, they still continue to be those independent people. Now, the problems happen is because when anxious attachers and avoidant attachers find each other, there happens to be a lot of chemistry in the beginning. So now we'll start with stage one. It starts out with the avoidant attacher probably love bombing the anxious attacher. The anxious attacher is just eating it up because maybe the hopeless romantic in them is living out their wildest dreams, and everyone is really on cloud nine. But you have to know that this initial attack, this initial attraction is actually more like a false attachment because at the very beginning, you're watching those unmet needs play out. So, on one hand, the avoidant who has been actively suppressing their needs for attachment, they have found this anxious attacher that is emotionally open and that is also willing to love on them in all the ways that they've been neglectful. And then on the other end of the anxious attacher, they have a relationship, like anxious attachers are typically love addicts. And so when they have a relationship, that's just it. They very easily they're going to ignore all of the yellow and red flags and they have a relationship. No, but seriously, the anxious attacher is they're attracted to the independence of the avoidant. And it's not because they're looking for a partner that is independent. They're attracted to the independence because they deep down desire to embrace that type of independence. So, stage one really consists of everyone giving everyone what everyone needs. The anxious attacher has the relationship, they have the foundation, the independence of their avoidant partner who is still love bombing them. And then the avoidant partner is getting all of the love that they have been suppressing for however long. Then we enter stage two. So, stage two is where the relationship is going steady. But the only thing is that both partners are actually having these inner dialogues that they're not speaking about. So, on one end, the anxious attacher is needing to know the what are we, that question is probably one that's floating around. But more importantly, the anxious attacher is realizing that they're becoming attached. They're wanting to see their partner more. And that is where the problem starts because on the opposite end, the avoidant is recognizing the closeness that the anxious attacher is needing. And like I said, the avoidant values independence. So the avoidant starts to feel these feelings, but because avoidants don't typically deal with their feelings, they don't really know what they're feeling. However, they do know that they are starting to feel like this may not be the relationship of their dreams. Then moving into stage three, you have pursuit and withdrawal. So the anxious attacher is steadily trying to find ways to regain the closeness, regain the connection. The avoidant individual is starting to feel smothered. So they're starting to pull back. It might be a big pullback, like very obvious, or it could be slight little pullbacks. Maybe you're getting your phone calls a little later in the day, or maybe you all aren't going out as much. So either way, the avoidant is starting to create the space. So coincidentally, this is also the stage where the activating and deactivating strategies are deployed. So on one end, for the anxious attacher, you have the activating strategies, and that could look like constantly needing reassurance, overthinking certain situations, maybe overanalyzing their partner's activity on social media. Just in general, anything that is going to help them regain the connection. And then on the opposite end, for the avoidant individual, you have their deactivating strategies. So, their deactivating strategies could look like creating emotional distance, not dealing with the emotions of it all, or it could also be creating physical distance. One of the biggest and most common deactivating strategies of avoidance is cheating. Anyone who cheats is an avoidant. I have said this over and over again, and I will die on this hill. Anyone who cheats is an avoidant because you are either avoiding the emotional intimacy of the relationship, you are avoiding the issues of the relationship, or you are avoiding the issues within yourself. So cheating is a major deactivating strategy that happens. Other deactivating strategies could be looking at your partner, the things that you used to love about them. Now all of a sudden you hate them. Avoidance, they have a way of flipping their mind from hot to cold, on and off really quick. The second they don't feel safe anymore, emotionally, they shut down, they deactivate. So as the attachment styles continue to play out, the anxious attacher is pursuing while the avoidant attacher is running. And what happens? It moves us into our next stage, and that is an escalation of conflict. So this is where the arguing is happening nonstop because no one is getting their emotional cup met anymore. And it's simply because it's no longer about the emotions, it's about the unmet needs. Now, those who are privy to attachment style are able to recognize this happening. But if you find yourself in a relationship like this, then you probably aren't. So, unfortunately, as the conflict continues to escalate, it's simply because as the anxious partner continues to chase, the avoidant partner continues to run. And eventually, all of the running will lead to disconnection. Now, disconnection is when typically you see the avoidant discard, and that is when the avoidant decides to end the relationship. Everything up until this point was just for play. Now things are like starting to get real. And this is where more activating strategies are deployed and also deactivating strategies possibly, because the anxious attacher typically is not going to just walk away from this type of relationship. Remember, the anxious attacher is used to working for love. So the avoidant saying that they want to end the relationship, oh, this is just another hurdle to get over. And this is where it actually gets a little tricky, because the anxious attacher can feel the fact that they're having to work for this love. Maybe they've even heard from people, that they deserve better. But the attachment system isn't wired to distinguish between what's making us feel good and what's making us feel bad. Our attachment system is a part of our subconscious, and our subconscious is only responsible for keeping us alive. So that's why when an anxious attacher is going through a breakup, they will do almost anything to regain the connection, because as the attachment system is playing out, it truly does feel like a life or death situation. Now, for many people caught in this relationship dynamic, that's probably the end of the road. The relationship ends, and all of this typically happens in a 3 to 4 month time frame. When the relationship has ended and some distance has been put between their anxious partner and themselves, then it allows for the avoidant to have some breathing room, and they don't feel as smothered by their anxious partner's need for closeness. Well, mostly because the anxious partner isn't even around anymore. So, but they allow those emotions that they have been actively suppressing to come up. And so the avoidant can start to miss their partner and long for them. And this is typically when the avoidant will reach back out. And if the anxious attacher is still interested, then the relationship will go for a second round. And this on and off cycle can continue on for years. And I've even known some avoidants to say they would do it forever. But the thing is that if neither one of the partners work through their issues that they have with attachment, then this cycle is just going to keep repeating itself, because your problems with intimacy will continue to play out, which will lead to emotional exhaustion on both ends. If you are unfamiliar with your attachment style, then I have a link in the description box for an attachment style quiz. It takes less than 5 minutes to complete. And if you don't know anything about the attachment styles at all, then I advise you to watch this video that I have for you, because this video is going to give you a detailed look at what all of the attachment styles are and how they play out. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe, and a comment. And until next time, I will see you later.